edition of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly. And our topics this week: will Freedom Inc. sink the city's bond issue? Sinking hopes in Kansas for a budget compromise? And stressing out over who's in the White House? Plus roast and toast. But we start with our interview segment and talk with award-winning journalist Mike McGraw, a special projects reporter for KCPT's digital magazine, Flatland KC. McGraw is part of a team preparing material for the series Public Works: The Cost of Aging Infrastructure. The series will premiere immediately following tonight's Ruckus program. McGraw's article, Ghost Water, appeared in the Kansas City Star recently, causing a great deal of comment and reaction. Mike joins us now to talk about his article and the infrastructure series. Mike McGraw, thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here.
I knew it was a hard assignment for you, having to leave your desk and walk all the way down the hall here to the studio, but you did it, and we appreciate it. Before we talk about your article, Ghost Water, let's talk about the infrastructure series, which begins this evening. What should people expect to see during that broadcast?
I think they should expect to be reminded of how politicians for years have been kicking the can down the road on infrastructure costs. Politicians don't want to raise taxes, they don't want to spend money, but now we're in a position where, because of the condition of roads and bridges, and especially the sewer system in this city, and other problems in the metro area, we've got no choice.
You're talking about the problem that sometimes is called deferred maintenance.
Yes, I am.
Which means we'll fix it later?
We'll fix it later. Maybe my successor will raise taxes and fix it.
Well, your series comes at a time when Kansas City, Missouri is talking about an election on April the 4th for infrastructure. $800 million in bonds, which would cost taxpayers additional property taxes for, I think, 2 decades. Is the series involved with that election, or is the timing just coincidental?
The timing's coincidental. We started working on this series before the Go Bond issue came forward, and it just happened to happen at the same time.
Well, as someone who's been around Kansas City for a lot of years and covered major news, what's your assessment of the bond election? Do you think it has a good chance of passing?
You know, I think in the past, citizens here have finally realized that, this is something they have to do. I'm not a political expert. I have no idea whether it's going to pass or not, but it's a high bar, as you noted earlier. It's especially with Freedom Inc. not backing it, you got to wonder whether it's going to pass or not.
Yeah, it takes 57%, I think, to pass, and there are 3 separate issues, and each one has to pass individually.
Right.
The title of the program, Public Works: The Aging Cost of Infrastructure, suggests that to repair it is costly, but maybe not to repair it is even more costly.
Could be more costly if we keep kicking the can down the road, and it could be costly in terms of, potholes damaging your car, bridges that have to be undergo emergency repairs. And the Broadway Bridge is one that even the city manager says keeps him awake at night.
Your article that caused a lot of buzz, a lot of reaction, is titled Ghost Water. What is it, and give us an overview.
Well, anybody who's lived in Kansas City for very long knows that the water department here has had a serious problem with leaks. You can drive through the city and see water bubbling up in the street near someone's lawn. And I thought maybe it's time to see, to put a number on it. How serious is this leak problem? The water department first gave me a 78% figure. They said, we keep track of 78% of our water. And I said, well, I want to know more. I talked to the American Water Works Association, and they said, you should ask them for their leak audit. I didn't know a leak audit existed. But in fact, the Water Works Association gives free software to city and other private water utilities that want to get to the bottom of their leak problem. And at first, they wanted to charge me quite a bit of money for that audit. And I said, come on, the software is free, just give it to me. And they finally did. And what the audit showed was pretty surprising to me.
Well, billions of gallons disappear, right? And no one pays for them.
Well, in 2015, the city pumped 28 billion gallons of water into the distribution system for all people who have water connections. And what the audit showed was that a third of that, over 9 billion gallons, disappears. They don't know what happens to it.
Does this problem exist throughout Kansas City or just Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, I don't know what the audits are for, and even whether the other water departments in the metro area audit. I'm told that Olathe does a great job and has done these audits, and they're not losing a whole lot of their water, but they're a newer system.
Yeah. Is there a solution at hand?
The solution comes with what's called a leak analysis. And the city hasn't embarked on that yet. That would give them a lot more information about where the leaks are. And remember, this city has water mains, some of which are still in use, that were laid in 1874.
Well, you must have loved this story because journalists love leaks.
Yes, journalists love leaks.
Thank you very much. We'll look forward to the program's premiere this evening at 7:30.
Okay.
And that's Flatland KC Special Projects reporter Mike McGraw. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. Lisa Johnston is a consultant and columnist. Crosby Kemper III is director of the Kansas City Library System and host of KCPT's Meet the Past. Jamika Kendricks is an education activist, and Woody Kozad is president of the Kozad Company, a government relations firm. And right behind all of them, our studio audience for this week's program. They are members of KCPT's Producer Society and Legacy Society. Welcome to all of you. Thanks very much for coming in and your support of KCPT. Now we're going to put the cameras on you. This is your big chance to wave at the cameras, wave to your folks and friends at home. Come on, all of you wave. Woo-woo. All right, that's enough. Thank you. We're ready to go. The upcoming $800 million infrastructure bond issue election on April the 4th is the monomaniacal focus of Kansas City Mayor Sly James and the City Council. The ballot will contain 3 separate questions for approval or rejection: $600 million for streets, sidewalks, and bridges, $150 million for flood control, and $50 million for public buildings. If approved, the bonds will hike property taxes for the next 2 decades. Despite the strong support of city and civic leaders, the African American political club, Freedom Incorporated, is not buying in. The group announces it will oppose all 3, saying it's not a good time to ask for a property tax increase. For these bonds to pass, it takes 57% of voters to say yes. And because of that, does the move by Freedom Inc. sink the bond's chances? Let's start with Jamika.
I don't know that it will sink the bond's chances. I think that it will be a challenge to get it approved since they do need 57%. But I want to talk about Freedom's reasoning behind that. So they're not doing it because they say it's not a good time to increase property taxes. Well, I don't think that's just it. I think it's a bigger issue. I think it's looking at, on the east side, there is a gentrification effort. And gentrification in itself is not bad because that's diversifying neighborhoods. But when it is gentrifying a neighborhood at the where it's at the expense of people of color in order to benefit whites, that's an issue. And Freedom Inc. is against that. And so I think sometimes we have unintended consequences of the things we're trying to push forward. And this bond issue, when we issue it, they're going to use it specifically to pay for those things. But what about the money we would have been allocating if the bond isn't approved? What will it be spent for? The projects that they want to push through, like the streetcar and the airport, we need to think about those things. And I think Freedom is.
I think I read in the Kansas City Star that Crosby Kemper III was quoted during an appearance on Ruckus saying that as distasteful as it was, he was supporting the bond issue.
So I'm definitely going to vote for flood control. I probably will have to vote for the streets and bridges because I heard the city manager say that he doesn't want to cross the Broadway Bridge anymore. But I tell you what, Mike, we lost our credit rating. Our AA credit rating was put on a negative watch 10 days ago by Moody's. We're a very high tax city. We're a very regressive tax city, high debt per capita city in the United States. And Jamika's exactly right. This is a tax that falls particularly hard on the working poor. And the services go to somebody else usually. Also, our big corporations and our developers aren't paying for this. If you're TIFed or tax abated, you don't actually pay for this. So some of our biggest corporations won't be paying the additional property taxes because their property taxes are limited.
Woody, it's kind of interesting. Freedom Inc. says it's not a good time to raise property taxes, but Freedom Inc. is supporting an 1/8 of a cent sales tax for 10 years. to provide economic development opportunities for a relatively small portion of the East Side.
If you're trying to shock me with the news that hypocrisy plays a role in political
Well, I know you're always
decisions,
stunned by that.
my breath is taken away. Look, I don't live in the city anymore, so I won't get a vote on this. If I did, I'd vote against it. I do not see why you reward one of the most mismanaged city halls in America for mismanaging the city for decades. In the 90s, the Chamber of Commerce howled about how little of the general revenue budget was going to maintaining roads and bridges and so on. And they agreed with the city very publicly that the percentage would go up 1% a year for several years till it hit the level they had agreed on and it would stay there. Instead, the percentage went down. They have decided to do nothing until they have an $800 million problem, and then they're going to come to you. You notice this is not accompanied by any proposal to require that in the future they do better about deferring maintenance. Until they're willing to take the animal shelter off the table, talk about the bridges collapsing, and do something about structural reform so they're not back in a few years with another $100 million, I say do not reward them for mismanaging this city.
I knew you hated cats. Lisa, do you think it's possible there's more to this, and the Freedom Inc. is willing to say there's been some tension between that organization and Mayor James? I think in 2015, the Freedom Inc. organization refused to support him for mayor.
Potentially, that could be part of it, but I do think that they also have reasons why they feel that this might be questionable. And I really feel like this 57% is going to be an extremely heavy lift. They might get it, but if they get it, I don't think it's going to be a landslide by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, these improvements, clearly, the maintenance has been deferred and it's needed, but I think people are asking the questions that Woody was talking about. You know, why was this let go for so long, and why wasn't this addressed, and why now are we having to have this on our backs?
Well, the answer is always it was the fault of earlier councils.
Of course.
And previous
of course.
mayors. All right. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback stands resolutely by his refusal to budge on hiking income taxes, vetoing a $1 billion measure he describes as the largest tax increase in the state's history. The veto was overridden by the state House, but was sustained by the state Senate, keeping Brownback's cuts in place. Currently, Kansas is forecast to have a budget shortage of about $320 million for this fiscal year and nearly $600 million shortage the following year. Legislature is still in session. Brownback is still the governor. So what now, Lisa?
Well, one of the things that's important to remember is since the tax policy was passed in 2012, each and every year, the legislature has had to scrabble around to address some kind of a shortfall, some kind of fiscal crisis, and something needs to be done. And it's really a shame that they couldn't do something early in the session. We've seen so many times things go on and on to the very end of the session and into the veto session. So they had a reasonable plan that rolled back the LLC exemption and increased the income taxes slightly. I think hopefully they can come back with another version of that plan and get at least 3 more senators, if necessary, to vote for the veto override, because it, frankly, even though we've had a few blips on the screen, as you and I were talking about before the show, that the revenue is a little bit better recently, still overall there are these huge shortfalls and they have to be addressed. It's just not working.
Crosby, what do you think Governor Brownback's rationale is for vetoing this measure?
Well, it's a huge, the measure was a huge tax increase.
$1 billion.
That's a $1 billion tax increase. And I think he's right about that. I think that's bad for business in Kansas City, bad for the average taxpayer in Kansas. On the other hand, he's going to have to find a way to compromise with what is now a very large majority that includes a lot of Republicans and some conservative Republicans in the legislature. The plan didn't work the way he thought it would, the way I thought it would. And that means you have to, the first thing a conservative ought to do is to recognize reality. And there's a certain lack of recognition of reality, I think, in the, not in the veto itself. I think that's okay. But he's got to come to the table, I think, with the legislature.
Well, Woody, there was a news item in the Kansas City Star this Thursday morning pointing out that Kansas revenues were $40 million over what was estimated in February. It's the third month in a row when revenues are higher than estimated. Is there some chance that the economy may come back without this additional tax increase and help Kansas balance its budget?
Well, the biggest thing that hurts Kansas is when oil is cheap, and oil is still cheap, and looks like it's going to stay that way.
All commodity prices. That's actually the biggest
Big
reason
on
for this.
agriculture
It's
and
not,
oil,
it's not
yeah.
the tax cut, it's the commodity price reduction.
You know, if I were in the governor's chair, what I would come forward with is, okay, I'll repeal this tax cut, and we'll replace it with the tax cut I proposed in the first place, which only kicked in when there was a surplus, and which the Democrats and the squish Republicans killed, and they put forward this tax increase. They're now howling about the tax cut. This was their proposal. They just didn't think the House would ever pass it or the governor would sign it. They did. So none of this would happen from the question, tax cut question, had they adopted his original tax cut proposal. And I don't know why, when he got his Senate, which he did a couple of years after he got in office, he didn't do that. And now would be a good time to do it. We're going to have tax cuts when we run surpluses. When we don't, we're not going to have tax cuts. And do that, and then put an amendment on the ballot to the Constitution to kick the Supreme Court out of the business of funding public education.
Generally speaking, Jamika, are you against tax cuts?
Depends on the tax cut. I am against tax cuts when we don't have enough money to take care of the things that we need, and then we want to cut taxes for business because
Of course, it
hasn't
depends,
been
I guess, on your
demonstrated to show
definition
it.
of what we need.
Yeah. When I say what we need, like if we have roads and bridges that need to be fixed, we should be fixing them. If we don't have money in the budget to take care of that, we should not be cutting taxes because that's how we get the majority of our revenue. I think at some point, people who are elected officials have to stop playing politics, and they have to stop putting party allegiance before their commitment to the people. And I think that happens a lot because we always complain, well, Republicans didn't support because Democrats said, or Democrats didn't support because Republicans said. At the end of the day, you're not there for your party. You're there for the people.
One of the biggest problems with the way that this was done is that there was absolutely no planning. They didn't create a revenue plan and decide, here's what we can cut, here's where we can economize, and here's how much revenue we'll need, and now we're going to build a tax policy to bring in that revenue. What they did was they passed this wild tax cut and said, I guess it'll work out somehow, and it didn't.
Final question, does this have to be resolved? They can't end the year in a deficit,
That's
can they?
correct.
According to the law?
That is correct. So they have to resolve it somehow, and I really sincerely hope that they can come to what is going to be a reasonable compromise
And if they
on
fail,
this.
Brownback goes to jail, right?
Right.
No.
The legislature.
So no,
the
they
Supreme
don't
Court.
have to solve it.
Yeah.
All right. One can understand why Kansas lawmakers are probably feeling stressed. But apparently the level of stress for most Americans is also on the rise. At least that's what the American Psychological Association says, and it blames the country's political climate. According to the APA poll, as Donald J. Trump was being sworn in as president, 59% of Republicans and 76% of Democrats were so concerned about the future that it caused the first significant jump in stress in 10 years. To many, the cause of increased stress is indeed President Trump, who spoke to a joint session of Congress Tuesday night. He may have silenced some of his critics with his opening statement that had special resonance in Missouri and Kansas.
Recent threats targeting Jewish community centers and vandalism of Jewish cemeteries, as well as last week's shooting in Kansas City, remind us that while we may be a nation divided on policies, we are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all of its very ugly forms.
And so on balance, do you think his comments, his speech on Tuesday added to or reduced the nation's stress level? And let's start with Woody.
My stress level will go down when faux news like the American Psychological Association's stress measure no longer appears on television or in print. This country is stressed. I get sick of everybody blaming everything on politicians. Those guys are reading polls. When they're up there beating each other over the head like a Punch and Judy show, it's because they've read their polls and their base voters want them to do this. If you want to look at why the country is divided, go stand in front of a mirror. We are the problem. We as a people, or at least a significant percentage of us are deeply divided on the most fundamental issues, and the stress level, or whatever you want to call it, isn't going to get a whale of a lot better as long as we have as much mistrust of one another, not just the government or something, of one another as exists in this society today. And I have not the faintest notion, nor has the American Psychological Association, of what you do about that.
So I guess your answer is we don't know if the stress level went down or not. What do you think?
Well, we
I
need
think
better
maybe it did.
psychiatrists. We need better psychiatrists. Isn't that what the American Psychological Association?
Don't you think there was?
Look,
the reaction to his speech was much
very
better
positive.
than most people thought.
Very positive. You know, it was Trump's torch of truth. And you know, he became an adult for a moment, and it was great. And you'll notice in what he said about Kansas City and about vandalism and hate and whatnot that he used the word "we" a lot. And that's a tough word for Donald Trump, and it was the right word. And so it was a much better speech than we might have expected from his campaign rhetoric in the first 30 or 40 days. There are a lot of promises there. And we'll see how it comes to pass on the promises. There hasn't been a lot of detail on those promises yet. And I think Woody's right. I think the country is basically divided 50-50 on a lot of the issues, and that's our real issue. That's our real problem.
It's been that way for years.
Yeah, exactly.
Jamaica, isn't this the problem? Social media?
No.
Isn't that why there's stress?
The problem is that we have two political parties where people want to act like kids with a lot of power. So we're going to say it has nothing to do with politicians. Why is it on social media? Why is it on the news? We're not making this stuff up. So we have two parties who consistently say, well, I don't like what you're doing, so I'm not going to do anything, or I'm going to try and prevent you from doing something. That's the reason President Obama had the opposition he had from the Republicans. It's the reason that Donald Trump has people not showing up to see his speech because they're Democrats. So at some point, we have to admit that this two-party system and what happened in this election did contribute to that, because we've always been divided.
Yes.
We've always had two parties. We've always had about 50-50. So you can't say, oh, it's just that we have a divided
By the way,
nation.
how embarrassed were you by the Democrats' response?
Very, because I felt like they were acting like kids. And I was embarrassed by the Republicans' response when Obama was in, because they were acting like kids. We elected you to help move a country forward. At some point, you got to be an adult.
And the Democratic response was such a missed opportunity. And I understand the rationale that folks have shared for why they did that, but the fact remains that the majority of the country were probably saying to themselves, who is this person? They had a chance to really try to make a statement with someone who's a leader in the party, and they didn't do that. But to Jamaica's other point, the polling shows that people are definitely disenchanted across the board. The media is talking a lot about Trump's low approval rating of 44%, but the political parties are at 35 and 30 respectively, Republicans and Democrats, and the leadership in the House and the Senate, Paul Ryan's the best at 35, and then the remainder are in the teens.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi's at like 12 or something like that.
Who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
Well, that's a great question.
Right.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we figure that out.
We've got to head now to the soapbox for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes have 30 seconds each to offer a pat on the back or a kick in the pants to people and events in the news. And we start with Lisa.
As last week was President's Day, my toast is for our first president, George Washington, who in his 1796 farewell address discouraged political parties in our country. And he noted that party was the enemy of government, and that those in a political party were often focused on their own elevation, on the ruins of public liberty. Washington was absolutely right, and we should have listened.
All right, Woody.
I didn't know whether to roast or toast the Missouri Senate for the amendments to the Missouri Human Rights Act and Employment Discrimination Bill they passed, but I'm going to toast them for something they did in the course of passing it. They removed one of the most, to me, an offensive provision, which would have made your city government and your state university exempt from punitive damages when they discriminate against somebody, as, for example, Missouri State has done a couple of times against fundamentalist Christians, and they would have left them exposed to zero punitive damages, which would have encouraged them to go right on doing what they've been doing. So they did take that part out before they passed the bill, and I congratulate them on that episode of wisdom.
All right, Crosby.
The Lyric Opera is putting on this weekend through next weekend Dead Man Walking, an opera about crime, forgiveness, and the death penalty. It's a moving and magnificent opera with one of our best contemporary composers, Jake Heggie, doing the music. And I want to salute the Lyric Opera and Deborah Sandler for putting on something of contemporary relevance and beauty.
Shamika.
I would like to toast Jennifer Garner. She is an education advocate for rural communities, and she decided to put aside her personal opinions about our president and choose to work with him and whoever was necessary in order to move forward equity and quality in education in rural areas. So I applaud her for choosing to be an adult.
And finally, here is a toast to an openly fake news site, HillaryBeatTrump.org. The website promises to calm Clinton supporters still unable to cope with a President Trump. Among its headlines, approval ratings for President Clinton hit 89%. The Department of Justice considers charging Trump with treason. And Senator Ted Cruz goes on Ellen to confess he killed Deputy White House counsel Vince Foster in 1993. And that is Ruckus for this week. We're off for a couple of weeks, back on March 23rd. Thanks to our guest here in the studio from the Producers Society and the Legacy Society. Mike Shannon on behalf of all the Ruckettes saying thanks for watching and good night.